Hey guys, tonight, you wake up face down on a wooden floor that smells like regret and spilled whiskey. The sun's already bleeding through the cracks in the walls, painting the dust in shades of gold and hangover. Something creaks above you, maybe a rat, maybe your last good decision, and your back reminds you that mattresses weren't invented yet. You don't remember much from last night, but judging by the dried blood on your collar and the empty revolver in your hand, it probably wasn't a quiet evening. Before we ride further into the grit and gunpowder, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Drop a little howdy in the comments with your city and what time it is. If stories like these help you wind down, consider subscribing. It means more than you know. Now dim the lights, lean back, and let's step into a world where even the silence had a price. You're not a cowboy. You're just another heartbeat borrowed from the dust. Right now, you're just some stranger who stumbled into a town with more stray bullets than bread. You smell like smoke, sweat, and old tobacco. And congratulations, the barkeep just stepped over you with a mop that hasn't touched soap in weeks. You're officially part of the furniture now. The saloon doesn't wake up. It groans. A piano key hits the wrong note. Someone coughs up something that sounds like debt. The bartender squints at you, then goes back to pretending life means anything at 7 a.m. in the middle of nowhere. You try to stand up. Mistake. The world tilts, and so does your stomach. You're still wearing your boots. Lucky you. Most folks wake up without theirs. Or without toes. You glance at the mirror behind the bar, but it doesn't reflect anything useful. Just a dusty outline of someone who used to dream bigger. Your shirt is stuck to your back, partly sweat, partly spilled beer, mostly regret. Your mouth tastes like you've been chewing on a saddle. And speaking of saddles, yours is probably gone. Stolen. Or sold. Maybe both. Outside, the heat's already picking a fight. Sunlight isn't romantic here, it's a weapon. You step out into the street and feel it slap your face like a disappointed uncle. The dirt road sticks to your boots like a bad decision, and every building creaks like it's tired of standing. You look around. 1 general store, 2 saloons, 0 churches. Priorities. A dog limps past you with more dignity than you'll manage today. A man with no teeth nods at you. Or maybe he just has something in his eye. Either way, welcome to town. There's no sheriff in sight, which could mean he's sleeping, drunk, or dead. Or maybe he's all three. You hear shouting from the alley. Could be a fight. Could be foreplay. Could be both. You decide not to check. Your stomach growls. The nearest thing to breakfast is beans cooked 3 days ago, reheated with yesterday's gunpowder. You eat it anyway. Hunger doesn't care about standards. You're not here for comfort. You're here because, well, you don't really remember anymore. Maybe to start over. Maybe to disappear. Maybe just because the train was going west and you were tired of looking back. Someone bumps into you. No apology. Just a glance that says, I dare you. But you don't have the energy for duels before coffee, and there is no coffee. Just bitter water boiled with soot and lies. So you keep walking. Past a woman sweeping dust off her porch like it owes her rent. Past a preacher yelling into the void. Past wanted posters that look eerily familiar. You wonder if one of them is you. You hope it's a flattering sketch. The truth settles in your bones like the dust in your lungs. This place doesn't care if you live or die. It only asks that you do it quietly. And so begins your first day in the Wild West. Not with a bang, but with a groan, a limp, and the realization that survival out here isn't a matter of strength or skill. It's about how long you can endure being forgotten. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is served in a dented tin bowl with a side of disappointment. You sit at a crooked table with 3 legs and 1 bad attitude, staring at the mush in front of you. Beans. Still. Cold as every promise this town ever made. The same beans from last night, and probably the night before that. They don't steam. They don't move. They just sit there, like the town. Unmoved, unbothered, and quietly judging you. You scoop a spoonful into your mouth. It tastes like charcoal and last chances. There's a hint of metal, too, either from the spoon or from whatever's crawling in the pot when nobody's looking. You chew slowly, not because it's delicious, but because you're stalling. Because nothing good comes after this meal. Not here. Across the room, a man is drinking something brown. Might be whiskey, might be tea, might be both. His hand shakes. His eye twitches. You wonder how long he's been here. Days? Years? Decades trapped in a loop of dust, booze, and unsent letters. The saloon doesn't smell better in the daylight. If anything, it's worse. The morning sun reveals stains that the night politely hid. There's vomit in the corner, blood on the piano, someone's sock nailed to the ceiling. You decide not to ask. You glance out the window. Nothing's changed. A man is yelling at a horse, and the horse is winning. The church bell rings once, not for God, but because the drunk who sleeps under it rolled over and hit the rope. It's barely 9 a.m., and already the heat is thick enough to chew. You finish your beans. Your stomach regrets it instantly, but regret is part of the diet here, along with dust, debt, and dreams that never grew legs. You step outside again. The sun is less forgiving now. It doesn't shine. It interrogates. Every part of you sweats. Even your past mistakes are damp. You try to walk like you belong, but your boots betray you with every creak. This town knows you're new. It smells it on you, like iron-colored stain in the water. Someone offers you jerky from a pocket that clearly hasn't seen daylight in weeks. You decline. They shrug. They eat it anyway. You try not to gag. Further down the street, the blacksmith is hammering something with more rage than precision. He's making horseshoes, or maybe venting about his 3rd failed marriage. Either way, it's loud, hot, and vaguely dangerous, just like everything else here. You ask a passerby if there's any honest work around. He laughs for a full minute before coughing himself into silence. Then he points to the hills and says, "You can try your luck there, if you're not too attached to your limbs." The hills, where miners disappear, bandits multiply, and maps become suggestions. You nod like you'll consider it, but deep down, you know better. You're not ready for the hills. You're barely ready for this sidewalk. Someone tosses you a coin, not out of kindness, but because they think you're a beggar. You catch it. You keep it. Pride doesn't pay for anything out here. You consider leaving. Right now. Just turning around and walking back the way you came. But the train only goes one way. And the next one? It's not coming. Not today. Maybe not ever. So you stay. Because staying is easier than explaining. And because you're starting to realize something. Out here, survival doesn't look like strength. It looks like stillness, like sitting through another bowl of beans and pretending they taste like something else. Like not flinching when the town tests you. Again, and again, and again. The sign says, "Welcome to town." But it should say, "Good luck." Because if you're expecting justice here, you'd have better odds wrestling a rattlesnake with a hangover. There is a sheriff. Technically, his star is tarnished, his gun is polished, and his loyalty belongs to whoever last paid him in gold or something shinier. He doesn't patrol. He drifts. Like a rumor. Like smoke. He shows up when he wants, which is never when you need him. You pass by the jailhouse. It's empty. Not because crime is low, but because the criminals are currently in power or playing poker across the street. The only person in a cell is a kid who stole bread. His trial? A shrug and a locked door. Meanwhile, the man who stabbed 2 miners over a mule is sitting in the saloon, buying drinks with their money. And no one cares. Not really. Because in this town, law is just a costume. Something you put on to feel important, or take off when it's inconvenient. The mayor, if there is one, hasn't been seen in days. Rumor is he left town with a singer and half the treasury. Or maybe he's buried somewhere behind the church. Either way, no one's looking. Everyone's too busy surviving. A crowd forms in front of the post office. A fight's broken out. Again. 2 men arguing over a land deed, both holding papers that look suspiciously identical. The clerk refuses to pick sides. He just watches with a smirk, sipping tea made from leaves that definitely aren't from this continent. You ask someone nearby what's happening. He shrugs. Depends on who bribes faster. Justice by auction. You keep walking. There's a brothel next to the schoolhouse. No irony. Just efficiency. Kids walk past painted women without blinking. They've seen worse. Some of them live worse. Childhood here ends before the first tooth falls out. A preacher is shouting from atop a barrel. He's quoting scripture, but no one's listening. Not because they don't believe in God, but because they've seen what happens when men do things in his name out here. A man rides into town fast, too fast. He's not from here. You can tell by his boots, his hat, his hope. He dismounts, ties up his horse, and walks into the saloon like he's in charge of something. 10 minutes later, he's back outside. Bloody nose. Empty wallet. No horse. Welcome, stranger. You sit on the steps of a building that might be a bank, might be a bakery. You can't tell anymore. A woman walks by with a shotgun slung over her shoulder and a baby on her hip. She nods at you. You nod back. That's respect here. No words. Just silent acknowledgement that everyone is armed and tired. It hits you then. This town doesn't lack law. It has rules. They're just invisible. And always for sale. If you're poor, justice is a coin toss. If you're rich, it's a handshake. And if you're both desperate and broke, well, you better be fast. Or invisible. So you stand up, dust off your pants, and make a silent vow. Never draw first. Never owe anyone. And never, ever, trust a man whose boots are cleaner than yours. They say the West was built by men, but they never say who cleaned the blood off the floor. You hear her before you see her. The woman at the piano, playing a tune that sounds like it remembers a better life. She sits straight-backed, lips tight, eyes far away, not out of elegance, but necessity. She's not here to make music. She's here to drown the noise. Her fingers move like memory, not skill. Maybe she learned in another life. Maybe the keys are the only thing that haven't lied to her. Around her, the saloon breathes heavy. Laughter too loud, boots too muddy, hands too bold. She doesn't flinch. Not when someone yells. Not when a glass shatters. Not when someone touches her shoulder and whispers a price. She just keeps playing. Because silence is dangerous. And melody is armor. The women here don't wear corsets for fashion. They wear them because it's harder to break ribs when they're bound. Their makeup isn't glamour, it's war paint. A way to hide bruises, mask exhaustion, and pretend the last customer didn't reek of rot gut and remorse. The men sharpen their egos, the women sharpen their instincts. Only one of them survives the night. You pass through the upstairs hallway. The floor creaks. The walls lean. You see a girl no older than 16 reapplying lipstick in a broken mirror. She hums a lullaby under her breath. You hope it's for herself. Downstairs, the madam negotiates with a banker and a preacher. She's the only person in town with real power, because she knows everyone's secrets. And out here, secrets are more valuable than silver. You watch a man stumble out of a room, buttoning his shirt and avoiding eye contact. He walks past the piano, past the girls, past the shame, and straight into the arms of normalcy. No one bats an eye. Sin, after all, is only scandalous when it's caught in daylight. The women return to their routines. Some pour drinks. Some patch dresses. Some scrub the floor like they're trying to erase themselves from it. And some, the lucky ones, dream. Not of love, but of land. Not of rescue, but of freedom. Of a cabin far from here. A horse. A dog. Silence. You catch eyes with one of them. She doesn't smile. She measures you. Not with hope. Not with fear. Just with the quiet knowledge of someone who has seen too many men mistake desire for devotion. She walks past you. Her boots are scuffed. Her hands are rough. And yet, she walks like someone who has survived something the town still doesn't understand. Because out here, being a woman isn't about lace or letters or longing. It's about grit. It's about waking up to the same smoke-stained sky and daring to laugh anyway. It's about knowing every man's weakness and pretending not to. The Wild West wasn't wild because of guns. It was wild because it expected women to carry the weight of civilization while being called decoration. And somehow, they did. With cracked hands. And broken backs. And music that never stopped playing, even when the keys were stained with tears. You wake up with a cough that tastes like copper. It rattles in your chest like something trying to escape, or die trying. Someone nearby sneezes into their hand, wipes it on their pants, and goes back to serving drinks. The town shrugs. You're not sick. You're just circling the drain. There's no doctor here. There's a woman with a box of rusted tools and a book missing half its pages. People call her Doc because it's easier than saying desperate. She learned everything she knows from trial, error, and burying her mistakes out back. You visit her shack because the fever won't stop. She checks your pulse, frowns, and hands you something brown in a cracked bottle. You ask what it is. She says, hope, maybe whiskey. You drink it. It burns like fire, or maybe salvation. Outside, the air is thick with flies. They land on your skin like unpaid debts. They don't care if you're clean. No one is. Hygiene here is a theory, a rumor from the East. You wash when it rains. You pray it doesn't flood. The outhouse behind the saloon leans at a dangerous angle. Inside, it's a horror story. You try not to breathe. You fail. A boy limps past you with a bandage that smells worse than the wound. He smiles anyway, because out here, pain is a language, and he's fluent. At the general store, you can buy soap, if you can afford it. Most people can't. They buy bullets instead. Clean hands don't help when someone's pointing a rifle at your chest. Priorities. Typhoid, dysentery, scurvy, they're not exotic. They're neighbors. They live with you, sleep beside you, wait patiently inside the water barrel you forgot to boil. When someone dies, the town gathers. Not to mourn, to take what's left. A pair of boots, a blanket, a bottle of morphine with one good sip left. No one asks permission. The dead don't complain. Out here, dignity is a luxury, and the dead are stripped of both warmth and memory. Children don't cry when someone coughs blood. They've seen it. They've swept around it. They've learned to step over it like any other obstacle. Your fever breaks 3 days later. You survive. This time. But now you know what your body is worth here. 3 spoons of brown liquid, a dirty rag, and someone muttering a half-hearted prayer. The West doesn't kill you fast. It kills you creatively, slowly, intimately. It waits until you think you're stronger than it. Then it takes your breath. One fly at a time. It's noon, which means it's time to pretend men are made of honor and not ego. The sun hangs directly above like an angry god, and the dust dances slow, like it knows what's coming. 2 men face each other in the center of town. Not over land. Not over justice. Over something important, like a spilled drink or a poorly timed insult. Or a woman who already left with the piano player. You watch from the shade, along with half the town. Kids sit on rooftops. Old men chew tobacco. Even the stray dog has stopped licking its wounds to see if someone might drop a sandwich. Everyone loves a duel, as long as it's someone else bleeding. The men stare. One is young, stupid, and shaking. The other is old, tired, and steady. Guess who's gonna die? Someone shouts, "Draw," because of course someone does. It's tradition. And if the West is good at anything, it's turning trauma into ritual. They reach. The young one's hand moves too fast, panic fast. The old one's hand moves too slow, confident slow. You don't even see the bullet. Just the sound. Then dust. Then silence. The young man crumples like bad paper. Shot in the gut. Which means he's not dead yet. Just starting to wish he was. Someone walks over, kicks his gun away, and walks off like it's lunchtime. Because it is. The saloon reopens. The town exhales. And everything returns to normal. You hear the preacher mutter a prayer. The bartender bets $2 the kid won't last till sundown. You consider betting too, but your money's gone, probably stolen while you were watching. The old man? He finishes his cigar. Doesn't look proud. Doesn't look shaken. Just looks bored. Like this is Tuesday. Because it is. And the kid on the ground? He moans. Someone gives him whiskey, not to ease the pain, just to shut him up. You ask someone nearby if the sheriff's coming. They laugh. Why would he? Good point. The body will stay there for a few hours. Long enough for flies to find it. Short enough to not block traffic. Eventually, someone will drag it to the edge of town and toss it in the ravine. No funeral. No marker. Just more dust. And tomorrow, there'll be another duel. Another crowd. Another bullet proving that manhood out here is measured in speed, not sense. You walk away. Hungry. Tired. A little deader inside. Because in the West, every man wants to be a legend. And every grave is filled with someone who tried. And as the dust settles over another dream, your stomach interrupts the silence, demanding its own kind of justice. You're hungry. Again. Not the kind of hunger you fix with a snack. The kind that hums under your ribs like a dying violin. You walk into the general store. There's food. Technically. Dusty cans with no labels. A bag of flour with more weevils than wheat. Jerky hard enough to break teeth. Which is fine, since you don't have a dentist anyway. You grab a tin and shake it. It doesn't move. Promising. You ask what's in it. The shopkeeper shrugs. Could be peaches. Could be beans. Could be disappointment. You buy it anyway. Back at your cot, bed would be a generous term. You open the can with a knife and a prayer. It's gray. And wet. You eat it cold. Because the last fire you built nearly burned down the outhouse. It tastes like iron, salt, and childhood trauma. You keep chewing. Not because you like it, because you don't have a choice. Later, you try the water barrel. It's lukewarm. Has a film on top that shimmers in the sunlight. Like oil, or bacteria, or both. You dip a tin cup and pretend not to see the bug floating inside. You drink around it. Sort of. Your stomach protests immediately. You argue back. It doesn't listen. Someone tells you about a well 2 miles out. Cleaner water. Maybe. You walk there. 2 hours under the sun. No shade. No mercy. You find the well. You find the bones beside it. You turn back. That night, someone offers you stew. You hesitate. They swear it's beef. You ask, beef from what? They wink. You eat it anyway. It's chewy. It's suspicious. It's vaguely familiar. You don't ask questions. Questions cost energy. Energy costs calories. And you're fresh out. Your teeth hurt. Probably scurvy. You remember citrus. You miss citrus. You dream of an orange so vivid. You wake up biting your own hand. You try to boil water the next day. The pot is rusted. The fire is stubborn. The wind wins. You drink it raw. The diarrhea comes at dawn. A punishment and a purge. Your body trying to rid itself of everything, including hope. You curl up under a blanket that smells like horse and sweat and forget what satiety ever felt like. You stop dreaming of feasts. You start dreaming of salt. Of bread that doesn't crumble. Of anything that doesn't crunch when it shouldn't. Out here, eating isn't joy. It's war. Every bite is a gamble. Every sip is a dare. And your stomach, poor, heroic, battered thing, just wants to survive. Even if it means digesting shame. There's a dead man in the street. No one's in a rush. But when a horse throws a shoe, half the town mobilizes. Because here, horses aren't animals. They're currency. They're status. They're survival strapped in leather and muscle. You watch as 3 men circle a bay mare with more concern than they've ever shown their own children. One wipes her muzzle with a silk cloth. Another feeds her an apple that would have been a month's salary for someone else. The third just whispers to her like she's the last good thing on earth. And maybe she is. A man steps off his stallion like he owns the planet. And maybe he does, for now. His boots shine. His hat is spotless. His saddle costs more than a coffin, and you've seen enough coffins to know. He tosses the reins to a boy and doesn't say thank you, because you don't thank the furniture. And here, poor boys are cheaper than spurs. You ask how much a decent horse costs. The answer, your dignity, and your savings, and maybe a kidney. You laugh. They don't. You try to rent one. The owner looks you up and down. Says, "You? Nah. You look like you'd ride it straight into shame." He's not wrong. You walk instead. Through heat. Through grit. Through that slow burn in your calves that reminds you you're not built for this place. Someone rides past you. Fast. Not out of urgency. Out of arrogance. The kind of speed that screams, "I matter more than you." The horse kicks up dust into your teeth. Tastes like class warfare. You see a woman crying over her dead husband. The townsfolk offer condolences, some bread, and ask if she's selling his horse. Because grief fades. But a good stallion? That's rare. The sheriff shows up, not for the widow, but because someone stole his mule. He's furious. Says justice will be swift. He hasn't said that since the saloon burned down last year. And that was on purpose. You sit near the stables at dusk. Listen to the breathing of the horses. It's peaceful. More honest than anything you've heard from the saloon. You wonder what it's like to be treated with that kind of reverence. To be brushed, fed, praised, protected. To be seen as essential. Out here, a broken saddle gets more attention than a broken man. A sick horse gets medicine. A sick worker gets buried. So you lie on the ground, under the stars, and whisper to no one in particular. Next life, make me a horse. You hear the gunshot at dawn. Not surprising. Just inconvenient. Another man gone. Another morning ritual. By the time you reach the body, someone's already rifled through his pockets. Took the coins. Left the blood. No one asks who he was. No one asks why. Those questions are for people with time, and this town never has enough. The undertaker arrives 10 minutes late and still seems rushed. He doesn't bring a wagon, just a rope and a shovel. You offer to help. He shrugs. Sure, just don't puke. The body's heavy. Not because of weight, but because of what it reminds you. You're next. You all are. You reach the cemetery, if you can call it that. A patch of dry earth littered with crooked crosses and forgotten names. No flowers. No prayers. Just dust and silence. You dig. The ground is stubborn, dry, cracked. Like it resents you disturbing its peace with another piece of meat. Someone jokes, at least he won't have to pay rent now. Someone else spits. Someone else leaves. By the time the hole's done, you're sweating guilt and dust. You lower the body in. No ceremony. Just gravity. The undertaker drops in a Bible, more out of habit than belief. Says something that sounds like Amen or whatever. Then starts refilling the grave. That's it. He doesn't mark it. Doesn't carve a name. Just another anonymous bed for bones. You ask who'll tell his family. The undertaker raises an eyebrow. What family? Fair point. On the way back, you pass 3 kids playing with a stick that was probably part of a coffin once. They laugh. They chase each other. They live like they'll never die, which is the best way to do it out here. Someone hums a tune nearby. Soft. Lonely. Like a lullaby sung to the dirt. That night, it rains. Not enough to clean anything. Just enough to smear the blood and swell the soil around the grave. By morning, you can't even tell anyone's buried there. And that's the West for you. It doesn't remember you. It barely tolerates you. And when you're gone, it moves on like you were never here to begin with. But the ground remembers. Not your name. Not your face. Just the weight. The town disappears behind you like a bad decision. No fanfare. No farewell. Just the sound of your own boots grinding into the dust. You head west, or maybe south, or maybe just away. Direction doesn't matter anymore. Only distance. The desert stretches out like a punishment. Endless. Unforgiving. Alive in that quiet way that makes you feel small and very edible. Your canteen is half full. Your legs ache, and the sun watches you like it's waiting for a mistake. By noon, the heat starts peeling thoughts off your skull. You talk to yourself, softly at first, then louder. Not because you're crazy, because silence is worse. You remember faces, names, people who said they'd write. They won't. You know that now. The wind picks up, carries sand and secrets, stings your eyes, your skin, your memories. You stumble. Once, twice. The third time, you stay down longer than you should, and the ground feels honest. Flat. Final. But then you get up. Not because you want to, because lying down feels too much like giving up, and there's no one here to bury you properly. You see bones in the distance. Animal. Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, they're white and clean and silent. Like warnings carved by time. There's a tree. Dead. A miracle in reverse. You sit beneath it like it offers shade. It doesn't. But pretending is a survival skill now. You drink the last of your water. Warm. Tastes like tin and fear. You listen. Nothing. No birds. No wagons. No voices calling your name. Because no one's looking. No one's coming. And that's the cruelest truth of the West. You could vanish out here, and the world wouldn't blink. You're not a legend. You're not a hero. You're a name that didn't make it past the dust. But still, you walk. One more step, then another. Because maybe, just maybe, the story's not done yet. And if it is, at least you got to write the last line. And then, nothing. Just wind. Just heat. Just you, walking through a world that forgot how to remember. You leave the desert behind. Not because it's done with you, but because it's bored. And when the West grows quiet, it's time to run. Boots still dusty. Skin still burning. Memory still unreliable. But now, the wind shifts. It smells like moss. like wet stone, like something older than betrayal. And as you blink through the fading sun, the world tilts again. From scorched earth to fog-wrapped cliffs, from grit to granite, from the promise of gold to the weight of empire. You're not in the West anymore. You're in Britannia, and the empire is crumbling beneath your boots. Tonight, you wake up cold. Not the kind of cold that kisses skin, the kind that chews bone. Your breath ghosts out in wisps, curling through the damp air like smoke that forgot its fire. And beneath you, stone. Above you, mist. You've traded sandstorms for sleet, gunpowder for moss, and outlaws for something far older and harder to kill: disillusion. You're stationed on a wall. Not just any wall. The wall. Hadrian's Wall. 80 miles of Roman arrogance laid out like a scar across the north of Britannia. Built not to expand, but to retreat with dignity. To draw a line not in the sand, but in stone. And to whisper, this far, no further. The empire calls it a defensive fortification. Locals call it a joke. You just call it home, because they gave you a sword, a blanket, and no return ticket. Welcome to the edge of the world. The silence here is loud. Not peaceful, tense. It hums with the things no one says. That the empire is tired. That the legions are thinning. That every stone in this wall is a confession. Not of strength, but of fear. You look south, toward Rome. Civilization. Wine. Baths. Lions that only eat when scheduled. But Rome looks away now. Pretends not to hear the screaming from the frontier. You look north, and the fog looks back. That's Caledonia, where maps end and monsters begin. The land of the unconquered, of painted warriors and stories whispered too late at night. You were told they're savages, but the more time you spend here, the more you wonder who really wears the paint. The wall isn't manned by heroes. It's manned by leftovers. Veterans too broken to return. Boys too young to understand. Criminals, conscripts, and anyone Rome found too inconvenient to keep nearby. You're not protecting civilization. You're buying time with blood and boredom. The fort smells like mold, regret, and goat. The rations taste like salted sorrow. Your armor rusts faster than your hope. But you show up. You stand guard. Because that's the job. At night, the fires flicker low. You hear wolves. Sometimes howls. Sometimes men pretending not to cry. And sometimes, nothing at all. Which is worse? You write letters to no one. Because no one writes back. Rome has forgotten your name. And the only thing keeping you warm is a lie you tell yourself every morning. That the wall matters. But walls don't matter to time. Or to rot. Or to the kind of wind that carries whispers of rebellion from both sides. One day, a stone falls from the battlement. Then another. No battle. No glory. Just age. And gravity. You stare at the crack forming near your post and wonder, is this how empires end? Not with a scream, but with a slow crumble? You ask your commander what happens if the wall fails. He laughs, then coughs, then drinks. That's your answer. The men gamble more now, drink harder, fight each other more often than they do the tribes. Even discipline is tired. You find yourself staring into the fog and thinking, maybe the barbarians aren't out there. Maybe they're just late. One morning, You wake to horns. Not alarm, celebration. The emperor has died. Or maybe just abdicated. Or maybe someone stabbed him. No one knows. No one cares. But something changes. You feel it in the stones. In the silence between orders. In the way your commander doesn't look you in the eye anymore. You take your post. You grip your spear. You face the fog. And you wait. Because Hadrian's wall wasn't built to win. It was built to stall. To pretend. To give the illusion that Rome was still rising. Even as its pillars sank into time. The wall hums at night. Not from battle or weather, but from memory. It's a hymn of things unsaid, of footsteps long gone, of soldiers who stood exactly where you stand and vanished. Not in glory, in mildew, in bureaucracy, in the kind of silence that forgets your name before your body hits the ground. Beyond the stones, there is no map. There's no path, no logic, no law. Only the moors, soaked with centuries and the occasional limb. They say the tribes out there eat hearts, but you've met enough Romans to know. Civilization isn't a matter of cuisine. It's a matter of PR. The fog rolls in like a lie. Slow, soft, absolute. You can't see 10 paces past the wall, but you hear it. Whispers, cracks, a drumbeat made of hooves or hope or something worse. Your commanding officer calls it nothing. He's been calling everything that lately. Last week's missing patrol? Nothing. The stolen horses? Nothing. The arrow that nearly took out the quartermaster's eye? Just north wind with an attitude. You start to wonder if the fog's not just hiding something, but raising it. Like a curtain in a play no one asked to be in. The men tell stories over stale bread. Of blue-painted warriors with eyes like knives. Of children raised on ash. Of women who chant while they kill. And for every tale, someone swears they saw it firsthand. And for every swear, someone else goes silent. Because belief is dangerous. It makes you act. One night, you and 2 others are ordered to scout past the wall. A show of strength, they say. You're not sure if it's for the tribes or for morale. But you go. Because orders are the only thing left that makes sense. The woods beyond the wall aren't silent. They breathe. Birds that don't sound like birds. Cracks that aren't twigs. A rhythm beneath your feet that doesn't come from your steps. You find an abandoned camp. Roman, but barely. The fire's cold. The blood's not. A helmet lies half buried in the moss, still holding part of someone's decision-making center. No footprints. No bodies. Just the sense that something was here and isn't finished. You return. Sort of. One of your men limps back. The other doesn't. You carry his name in your mouth like a thorn. But the report says hostile terrain and unknown causes. The wall doesn't write eulogies. Just excuses. Back at the fort, things are quieter. Not in a peaceful way, in a held-breath way. The kind of quiet that comes before collapse. Your commander drinks more. Your rations rot faster. Your sword rusts in your sleep. And the fog? It gets bolder. Creeps closer. Spills over the top of the wall now, as if testing how much it can get away with. You start dreaming in grey. Of marching north with no orders. Of finding not warriors, but ruins. Of hearing Latin echo off trees that shouldn't understand it. You wake sweating. Not from fear, from relevance. Because the worst thing isn't death. It's duty without purpose. It's standing guard over a frontier no one believes in anymore. You begin to question the stones. Not their weight, but their meaning. Was this wall built to protect? Or to abandon politely? There's a knock at the gate. Not a siege. Not a raid. Just a knock. Like a neighbor asking for salt. You don't open it. Of course not. But part of you wants to. Because maybe what's out there isn't worse. Maybe it's just more honest. The next morning, someone finds a spear wedged between two stones. Not Roman. Not crude. Just different. Clean. Precise. The message is clear. We see you. And the wall? It does what it always does. It says nothing. It's not the battles that break you. It's the waiting. The stretch of hours between patrols, between commands, between the illusion of purpose and the slap of reality. You used to count days. Now you just count spoons. And when that fails, you count the cracks in the ceiling. Some of them in the stone, most of them in your head. They say you're holding the line, but the line shifts. Sometimes it's the stones. Sometimes it's your sanity. Sometimes it's just the lie that someone, somewhere, still cares if you're alive. The wall doesn't feel strong anymore. It feels heavy, like dragging the corpse of a dream through the mud. 80 miles of resignation, stacked, one stone at a time, by hands that hoped history wouldn't forget them. Spoiler, it did. Your boots are soaked. Always. From rain, from rot, from the slow leak of pride. The trench outside the wall floods every time the clouds sneeze. No one repairs it, because no one plans to be here long enough to drown. The other soldiers talk less now. Words are luxury. Laughter? A fossil. You pass each other in the corridors like ghosts wearing rust. No greetings. Just nods. Because here, nodding means, I see you. I'm still trying to. One man disappears. No alarm. No note. Just gone. Maybe he defected. Maybe he snapped. Maybe he found out what's on the other side and decided it was better than soup night. The cooks keep boiling the same stew. Brown, gray, uncertain. No meat, unless you count rats. Some do. Some even trade for them. Not for the flavor, for the crunch. It reminds them of something real. Once a week, a messenger arrives. Young, fresh-faced, unafraid. He looks at you like you're part of a museum exhibit. You envy his optimism, his teeth, his ability to stand upright. He brings news, but not the kind that matters. New emperor, new tax, new festival in Rome celebrating something irrelevant. You ask if reinforcements are coming. He laughs, then says, "Oh, you're serious." The supplies shrink. Your pay shrinks. Your belt does too. You used to care. Now you just adjust. At night, you dream of green fields, of amphitheaters filled with cheers instead of fog, of women who speak softly, of cities that don't smell like mildew and goat. You wake to the snoring of a man missing 2 fingers, and the scratching of rats organizing a coup under your bunk. One evening, a soldier collapses during guard shift. They say exhaustion. You say despair. Either way, he doesn't get up. You don't hold a funeral. Just a moment of silence slightly shorter than usual. A carpenter tries to reinforce a section of the wall. His missing tools, and help, and patience. He stares at the stones for a while, then walks away. The wall groans behind him, but doesn't collapse. Not yet. There's talk of revolt. Not against the tribes. Against Rome. But it's just talk. Because revolting takes energy. And no one has enough of that anymore. Because holding the line only means something if the people behind it believe in the cause. And right now, there's more belief in the fog than in the flag. And so you stay. You wake. You march. You stand guard over stones that guard nothing. Because sometimes the cost of holding the line is forgetting what you were defending in the first place. You find a coin in the mud. Bronze, worn, useless. The face on it, a long-dead emperor with eyes that never blinked, stares up like it still owns the world. You clean it with spit and sleeve. Pocket it. Not for value. For proof that something once mattered here. No one speaks of glory anymore. Not even in jest. It's like the word has mold on it. Even the standard hanging above the command tent droops. Not from wind, but from fatigue. Rome sent banners, but forgot the belief. The newer recruits arrive wide-eyed. They ask about battles, triumphs, promotion. You point to the latrine and say, "Start there." It's not cruelty, it's orientation. The locals come to trade. Rough wool, smoked meat, words laced with side eyes. They never cross the wall, not because they fear it, but because they don't respect it. The wall isn't a border. It's a joke everyone's too tired to laugh at. One offers you a carved wooden figurine. A boar. Maybe a god. Maybe a warning. You offer salt. He accepts. And for a moment, you both pretend this place still has rules. That night, it rains. Hard. The kind of rain that doesn't cleanse. It accuses. You sleep in shifts, soaked and shivering, wrapped in the kind of blanket that remembers warmth the way you remember childhood. Vaguely and with some bitterness. You dream of cities, not real ones, but imagined. Rome, maybe, but with less shouting. You walk marble streets. You drink wine that doesn't taste like regret. You hold someone's hand. You never see their face. You always wake before they speak. The next day, someone paints over the motto carved into the fort's gate. A joke, maybe. Maybe a protest. The new words read, "We are the ruins." No one cleans it. Letters from home become rarer. Not because fewer are sent, but because the road is gone. Flooded. Abandoned. Or worse, rerouted to somewhere more useful. You realize you are now the end of the road. The priest mutters mass to himself. His voice is hoarse. His wine is diluted. His eyes are vacant. You ask if he still believes. He doesn't answer. Just offers a sip and a shrug. The wall is cracking again. This time, no one tries to fix it. Someone hangs a shield over the hole. Not for defense, for denial. You find a journal in an old barrack chest. Latin. Elegant script. It talks about dreams of conquest, of duty, of building something eternal. The ink is faded. The sentiment is extinct. You wonder how long it takes for memory to become myth, for ambition to become dust, for stone to mean nothing more than "this is where we stopped." The medic runs out of salves, starts using ash, says it works. You don't believe him, but it's better than praying. One evening, a child is born inside the fort. No one knew the mother was pregnant. She says nothing, just holds the baby like it's made of thunder and prayer. The men pass around bread that tastes like sawdust. But they toast anyway. Not to Rome, not to gods, to the idea that something might begin here, even as everything else ends. You start writing again. Not letters, inscriptions. On walls, on wood, on stone. Not names, Not messages. Just presence. A mark to say I was here, even if no one remembers why. Because this is where empire ends. Not in fire. Not in marble. In memory. And if no one else remembers you, maybe the stones will. No one dreams of being stationed here. They dream of Rome. Of medals. Of speeches with applause. Not of rain in their boots and mud in their lungs. And yet, here you are. A mosaic of nobodies, stitched together by exile and low expectations. The wall doesn't care about your past. It doesn't ask why you joined, or what you ran from. It just gives you a number, a bunk, and a weapon with more rust than history. And in return, you give it your knees, your teeth, your years. The man beside you used to be a poet. Now he speaks in grunts, scribbles verses in the dirt with a broken stick. One day, the rain washes it all away. No one notices, except him. Another used to be noble, claims he had land, servants, a wife. Now he sharpens blades with the same hands that once signed scrolls. His eyes still scan the horizon, not for enemies, but for anyone who might still remember his name. There's a Gaul who laughs in his sleep, always the same laugh, soft, joyless, almost apologetic. No one asks why, because asking invites stories, and stories cost energy. He measures bread with the precision of someone who's been hungry too long to joke about it. He steals extra bread, bits of meat. No one punishes him, because everyone's grateful. It takes skill to rob from the empire without leaving your bunk. Some nights, they gather around the fire, not for warmth, but for proof that they're still human, that there's still something left to burn. They pass around wine that tastes like old vinegar and worse decisions. It hurts, but it's real. Someone hums a song, old, forgotten. No one knows the words anymore, but the melody lingers, like a smell that reminds you of someone who left and never came back. You walk the perimeter and see carvings on the stone. Initials, dates, a crude drawing of a man punching a ball. These are the true records, the real history, not written in marble, but in boredom, desperation, and bad knives. You find a tunic stuffed into a wall crack, blood on the collar. Inside, a note. Tell her I fought. No name, no date. You fold it, keep it, because someone should. You hear rumors of legions pulling out. Not just here, everywhere. Rome retreating like a tide that forgot how to rise again. Some cheer, most don't. Freedom's not as romantic when it comes with hunger and no boots. A young recruit tries to desert. They catch him. Don't punish him. Just assign him latrine duty. He doesn't protest. He's just glad someone noticed. The medic loses another patient. No cause. Just stopped breathing. He stares at the body and mutters. Maybe that's the most Roman thing left in us, knowing when to quit quietly. There's no more training, just routines. Rehearsals for a war that no one believes in. You practice spear drills while your commander drinks behind the barracks. He shouts encouragement, slurs most of it, but the rhythm helps. You write one last letter, not to family, not to lovers, to anyone, a stranger. You tuck it into a crack in the wall and hope the wind knows how to read. One evening, a man dances. No music, just movement, joy that refuses to rot. He spins, barefoot in the mud, and everyone watches. Not laughing, not mocking, just remembering what it felt like to feel. The fire burns low, the wine runs dry, and no one speaks of Rome anymore, only of the wall, and of each other. Because the forgotten soldiers of the wall aren't heroes, aren't villains. They're echoes, still walking, still waiting. And if the empire won't remember them, the stones will. They told you Rome would last forever, that the sun never sets on its banners, that its laws are sacred, its walls invincible, its gods undefeated. But here you are, soaking wet, half-starved, guarding a wall that forgot how to believe its own legend. Eternity, it turns out, is just good marketing. The statues back in Rome still smile. still hold their spears, still pose for gods no one prays to anymore. Here, statues crumble, banners tear, and faith rusts in the rain like a helmet left too long in the mud. The Empire sends scrolls, edicts, announcements, orders scribbled in ink that can't see this far north. They talk of honor, of glory, of duty, as if those words haven't already drowned in your trench. One decree arrives promising increased rations. The quartermaster laughs so hard he chokes on dust. You keep the scroll. Use it for kindling. Best warmth it's given anyone. The line has blurred. Stone and madness now share the same heartbeat. The ration bins are empty. The latrines leak into the sleeping quarters. And last week, a man tried to trade his boots for a goat and lost the negotiation. The local tribes watch from the woods. They're patient, smarter than you were told. They wait for you to break yourselves. You're doing a good job so far. The priest gives up. He walks into the woods one morning with a wooden cross and a flask. Never returns. Some say he went looking for truth. Others say he finally stopped pretending. One soldier tapes a golden coin to his breastplate. Says it's for luck. It gets stolen before sundown. He doesn't even react. Just mutters, "Guess the luck worked. I didn't die." You start carving things in the wall. Not words. Shapes. Symbols. Wounds that don't bleed, but still ache. You don't know why. Maybe to prove you were here. Maybe to prove something was. Rome still demands tribute. Still taxes your pay, what's left of it. Still expects reports. But there are no victories to report. Just weather updates and headcounts that shrink faster than your patience. A letter arrives addressed to a soldier who died months ago. His name spelled wrong. You burn it. He deserves better than to be forgotten badly. The commander starts assigning shifts by dice rolls. No one complains. It feels fairer than the old system. They told you the Empire was eternal. But eternity doesn't forget your name. Eternity doesn't skip supply wagons. Eternity doesn't let rats eat the ceremonial flags. A man lights a torch and walks the wall alone. He says nothing. He's not on duty. He just walks. 1 mile. Then 2. Then vanishes into the fog. No one follows. No one questions. You all envy him. Another legion sends word they're pulling out. Recalled to Gaul. Or was it Africa? You don't know. You don't care. All you hear is the sound of Rome shrinking. At some point, the Empire stops being a place. It becomes a rumor, a bedtime story, a memory clung to by men too scared to face the silence. You stare at the wall. You don't see defense. You see denial. A monument to what was, and what no one has the courage to bury. And still, each morning, you rise. Put on the armor. Stand at your post. Not because of Rome, but because that's what the last man did. And the one before him. The lie of the eternal empire isn't that it can't fall. It's that it still stands, even when no one's left to hold it up. It doesn't happen all at once. No trumpet, no quake, no headline, just a sound, a low groan, like the stones are tired of pretending. Then a shift, then silence. You feel it in your boots before you see it. A crack, running from the top of the battlement down to the ground, like a scar that finally split open. Someone points. No one reacts. Because you've all known this would happen. You just hoped it wouldn't be while you were still here. The engineers come, or what's left of them. 2 men and a donkey with arthritis. They poke at the wall with sticks, mutter about weight, time, frost, then leave. The donkey limps slower than the morale. You ask what the plan is. The commander rubs his eyes. Hope it holds, he says, and then walks away like he just handed the future to gravity. The next night, the wind howls through the crack. It whistles like a scream with nowhere to go. You stuff rags into it. Someone ties a tunic over it. It flaps, mocking you. The crack widens. Rain gets in. Then frost. Then a bird nests in it. A crow, probably. Of course it's a crow. The soldiers start placing bets. Not if the wall will fall, but when. Some say a week. Some say a month. One says tomorrow and laughs too long. He's removed from duty. No one replaces him. The priest's old chapel collapses one morning. Just a roof now. No prayers. Just echoes. No one clears the rubble. A dog sleeps there sometimes. Seems appropriate. The supply road washes out in a storm. No more wagons. No more scrolls. No more excuses. You begin to wonder if anyone down south even knows you're still here. You start telling yourself the wall hums because it's alive, not because it's dying. It's a verdict, passed slowly, deliberately, by time itself. One soldier jokes that maybe the tribes beyond the wall will fix it. After they take it, no one laughs. Because honestly, it would be an improvement. You walk the perimeter at night and listen. Not for enemies. For the wall. It groans now. All the time. Like a drunk trying to stand. Like a god learning how to die. A raven lands near the crack and watches you. Not scared. Not even curious. Just waiting. You tell yourself it's just nature. Stone and weather. Wear and tear. But deep down, you feel it. This isn't just erosion. It's permission. One morning, you find a boy on the other side. No weapons. Just standing there, barefoot in the frost. He doesn't speak. Just stares at the wall. At the crack. At you. Then he turns and disappears into the trees. The message is clear. They know. They've always known. And now, they're just letting you unravel. You ask the quartermaster for materials to patch the stones. He gives you a spoon. Says, "Good luck." You throw the spoon. Then pick it up again. Because it might still be useful. That night, you dream of the wall falling. Not crashing, sighing. Like it's relieved. Like it's finally allowed to rest. You wake up sweating. The crack is longer. The wall is quieter. Even the birds don't mock you today. Because the wall doesn't need enemies anymore. It's losing to time, to neglect, to memory. And when the wall cracks, so do you. The horn doesn't blow. There's no shout, no alarm, no thunder of hooves. Just morning. Gray, wet, indifferent. And yet, it feels final. The kind of day that closes doors without sound. You wake up with stiff joints and a strange calm. Your armor still hangs where you left it. Still smells like old sweat and older defeat. You don't put it on. You strap on your belt, though. Not for battle. Just out of habit. There's less movement around the fort. Fewer voices. Fewer eyes meeting yours. It's as if everyone agreed, silently, collectively, to pretend nothing's happening. because acknowledging the end would make it real. The fog is thicker than usual. You can't see the gate. You can't see the road. You can barely see your own hands. It feels like standing inside a forgotten breath. You take your post on the wall. Same as always, but the crack is wider now. It cuts through your section like a truth finally spoken. You press your palm against it. Cold. Alive. The fire pits below haven't been lit. There's no stew boiling. No orders barked. No drills being run. Even the crows seem hesitant, like they're waiting for someone else to move first. A rider appears on the horizon. Then another. But they don't approach. They linger, like ghosts testing the edge of a dream. Eventually, they turn and disappear into the mist. You wonder if they were real. Then decide it doesn't matter. Perception is reality out here. And reality's been fraying for months. You see two soldiers packing quietly. Not deserting, departing. They nod at you. You nod back. No goodbyes. Just recognition. The commander sits alone, staring at a broken helmet. It's not his. He's not speaking. He's not drunk. He's just gone. The body's there. The rest went elsewhere. Someone raises the flag. It flaps once, then catches on the pole. Tears. No one fixes it. You patrol the length of the wall slowly. Not to protect, just to remember. The carvings, the stains, the places where you laughed once, or bled. You find an old inscription near the western gate. Faded Latin. Finum respis. Look to the end. You trace it with your finger. It feels like a whisper meant for today. Midday comes and goes. Nothing happens. No enemy charge. No trumpet from the south. Just the wind. Picking up. Singing through the crack. You sit. Back against the stone. Spear beside you. Not held. Just near enough to pretend. Someone plays a flute. Badly. Beautifully. You close your eyes. And listen like it might be the last music anyone ever makes up here. Evening drips in without apology. The light fades. The fog deepens. The stars stay hidden, maybe out of pity. One by one, the torches go out. One by one, the guards stop rotating. One by one, the names start fading from memory. And still, you sit. Because the wall needs someone. Even if it's just to witness. Because the last watch isn't about protection. It's about not letting the silence win without a fight. And when dawn comes again, if it comes, you'll still be here, with your back against the stone, and your shadow stretching across a line the world forgot. It doesn't happen with a declaration. No messenger rides up with a scroll marked abandonment, official. No horn sounds. No bell tolls. It's quieter than that. Simpler. More cruel. One day, the supply wagons stop. The next, the letters. Then the pay. Then the orders. And finally, the silence becomes policy. The empire doesn't say you're forgotten. It just stops pretending you're not. You try to believe it's a mistake. A clerical delay. A detour. You even write letters. To generals. To prefects. To gods. None are answered. Not even the gods bother returning your calls anymore. A centurion takes it personally. He begins marching every morning at sunrise. Alone. Full armor. Full ritual. No one stops him. It's not discipline. It's mourning. Someone lights a fire near the gate every night. Not for warmth. As a beacon. For Rome. For anyone. The flame gets smaller each evening. The hope, 2. The commander disappears one afternoon. No speech, no ceremony. He just walks into the mist with his sword and his shame. You find his armor a day later, folded neatly beside the chapel. No one takes it. It feels sacred now. The chapel burns next. No one starts the fire. No one stops it. The flame dances over a roof that never kept out rain anyway. By now, even the crows seem bored. They stop gathering at the wall. They've moved on to newer tragedies. You try to keep the routines. Inspection, patrol, inventory, but they feel like rehearsing for a show whose audience died in their sleep. One man shaves his beard and says he's heading south. To find Rome, he claims. You don't tell him what he already knows. Rome isn't lost. It just left you behind. Another man carves a map into the wall. Not of the empire. Of here. This fort. These men. The cracks. The bloodstains. He adds names. Dates. Memories. You watch him work in silence. It feels more permanent than marble. You take to writing your own name into everything. Stone. Wood. Walls. Not because you're proud, but because you refuse to vanish gently. The boots wear through. The spears rot. The banners fall. And still, no one comes. You stop calling it the empire. It sounds too clean, too proud. You start calling it they. They used to feed you. They used to remember you. They used to pretend you mattered. Then even they feels too generous. So you stop speaking of Rome at all. Instead, you speak of fires, of winters survived, of the man who could juggle knives, of the woman who gave birth in the middle of a thunderstorm and named her daughter Fortuna. You speak of the wall, not as a thing, but as a companion, the only one that stayed, even as it crumbled. A boy from a nearby village brings bread. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't mock you, just leaves it by the gate and runs. You almost cry, not from gratitude, from the reminder that someone still remembers you breathe. Because when the empire forgets you, the sky changes color. The wind feels different. The sun sets without promise. And the stars, the ones that once guided legions, look down with indifference. You don't blame Rome. Not really. It's hard to hold an empire accountable when it no longer knows its own shape. But still, you sit. You stay. Because the wall hasn't forgotten you. And as long as it stands, as long as your name is carved into something that bleeds moss and history, you are not gone, just unfashionably remembered. The wall doesn't fall. It exhales, stone by stone, like a man finally admitting he's tired. There's no enemy charge, no siege, no hero, just gravity, and time, and the kind of silence that speaks louder than collapse. You wake up one morning and it's not there. Not all of it. A tower is gone. The section with the old carvings has caved. You stare at the gap like someone pulled a tooth from the sky. No one panics. No one screams. There's just the sound of boots crunching over what used to be defense. What used to be purpose. The men gather slowly. They don't talk about rebuilding. They don't talk at all. They just look, like widows at a grave they helped dig. You walk along the remnants, fingers tracing the moss, the cracks, the names. Your name, still there, barely, but there. A wind picks up from the north. It doesn't feel threatening, just free, like a sigh from a land that was never conquered, just inconvenienced. The tribes don't attack. They don't need to. They watch, from a distance, respectfully, like one warrior to another. Seeing that the fight is over, you pack your things, not because you're leaving, but because it feels right. The ritual of folding, bundling, lifting. It gives weight to the moment. Someone builds a small cairn near the western gate. No name on it, just stones, and a dented helmet placed gently on top. Others start placing offerings, not to gods, to memory. A wooden spoon, a rusty coin, a single boot. The birds return. They walk over the broken stones like nothing happened. They never cared about empire, only shelter. And now the wall is perfect. Soft, open, half forgotten. A child from the village brings you a flower. Wild, colorful, stubborn. You place it in a crack near the gate. It looks absurd and beautiful. You sit one last time where the wall still stands. Not high, not strong, but honest. And for the first time, you don't feel like a soldier. You feel like a page in someone else's story, left blank. You think of Rome, not as it is, as it was. Marble, wine, roads that led to everywhere. You smile, because you were the edge of that world. And now, you're the echo. The sun sets slowly, lingering, as if it, too, wants to remember. The stars come out. They don't speak Latin. They don't care about borders. They just shine, like they did before the wall, like they will after. You lie down beside the stones, not to sleep, not to die, just to listen, to the earth, to the wind, to the soft sound of history exhaling. Because the wall may fall, the empire may forget, but what remains, what truly remains, is this: a name in the stone, a crack in the earth, a silence that once had witnesses, and the memory of someone who didn't leave until the last stone did. And so, the wall sleeps, not as a monument, not as a relic, but as a memory carved in stone, of soldiers who were never heroes, of gods who stopped listening, of a silence that watched empires rot with grace. You were never meant to matter here, but you did, because you stayed, because you listened, because when everyone else vanished, you remembered. And now, dear listener, if you've made it this far, if your breath has slowed, and the world feels softer, I'm glad you're still with me. Before you drift off, tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight, what time it is, what stories whisper to you in the dark. If this kind of journey helped you breathe deeper, helped you rest a little easier, maybe leave a like or subscribe. Not for algorithms, for echoes, because some walls may fall, but stories linger. Until next time, good night, sleep warm, sleep slow, and may the fog carry only peace tonight.